I'm Sari Kimbell, and I've done just about everything in the food industry. I have helped hundreds of packaged food business entrepreneurs, and now I want to help you make your delicious dream a reality. Whether you want to be successful at farmers markets, online, or wholesale onto store shelves, food business success is your secret ingredient. I will show you how to avoid an expensive hobby and instead run a profitable food business. Now let's jump in. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. All right, today we are doing the second part of this whole problem solving mini series, and I decided to break it up into two parts. So today we are talking about solving longer term problems, kind of really fixing the issues, not just solving for those urgent things. And again, we have to remember that the only problem in our business is that we think there should not be problems. I really look at these long-term problems. You could call them something different, opportunities, challenges. It doesn't matter what word you use. I like to think of all things in terms of problems, and that problems aren't necessarily a bad thing. And speaking of problems, we are solving one of the biggest problems, long-term and short-term, and that is time. We're solving the issues of creating more time and growing your schedule, expanding your schedule to be able to add this whole start a business thing. And so today I'm so excited because we are having our first call in the Create More Time Bootcamp. And if you missed your opportunity to join us live, it's not a problem. You can still come into Food Business Success, get the replay from today, and then you can join us on the next 3 calls live. So don't feel like you totally missed the boat on that. You can join Food Business Success at any time and either get the live ones as they come up for the next 3 Tuesdays after this, or you can always get the recording. It'll be inside the full Food Business Success program. I like to look at long-term problems as the spice of life. This is the thing that gets our juices going and gets us excited. It's where we feel like, at least for me, where I'm like, ooh, I'm using my brain and I'm really strategizing, right? In my mind, this is why we become entrepreneurs. You may think it's because you just want to get your delicious coffee or kombucha or salsa or cookies out into the world and into people's mouths. But ultimately, that is a problem to be solved. How do we get people those products and get them aware of you and your business and enjoying them, right? That is a problem to be solved. So if we can just reframe it to start with and just say, no, this is part of why I'm in business. Again, if it was just easy and I had no problems, you would actually get pretty bored pretty quickly. I promise. You may think that's not the case, but what we do as entrepreneurs is we just get great at solving problems. And so last week I talked all about solving those urgent short-term problems. There's oftentimes just like a one-time thing. But I look at sort of this longer term skill of solving problems. Usually we use it to solve 2 different things. If we notice that there's a recurring urgent issue in our business, we're just going to talk business here. It could be in your life too. But if you notice that there's just something that like, I keep having to deal with this. It wasn't just a one-time thing. That's a really good time to stop and say, let's do some longer term problem solving. And then the second thing is really like, let's just look at the business and we want to be strategic about it. We want to ultimately position your business for success, whatever that means to you. But this is really an opportunity to come in very neutral, like no drama, and just say, what is the next step? And I recommend, definitely we often do this kind of at the end of the year where we're looking ahead to the next year, and what are the problems, what's the growth that we want to achieve, what's the success we want, what problems do we need to solve. But you could do this quarterly. I would highly recommend you're looking at it quarterly. I mean, I'm constantly looking at my business. I try to be that where I'm zooming in at the 100-foot level. And then I'm also looking at my business from that 35,000-foot level, where I want to be really strategic and say, where am I going? What is success? And how am I doing on that? If I've made an annual goal, checking in and seeing where I'm at, right? So I'll take a couple of examples. I was trying to think of things in your business that might fall into either one of these categories, either solving a recurring issue or just being high level strategic in your business. So I was thinking about, like, if you have staff, whether they're working at a farmer's market or helping you in production, if your staff is having frequent turnover, or they're frequently calling in or calling out and just not performing well, then first, you can solve that immediate problem of, like, oh, staff member called out. Now I got to figure out the farmer's market or figure out production. So that's your immediate problem. But if you notice that this is like a trend, then we want to stop and really do this higher level problem solving. I was thinking about, if you're running social media ads or Google ads, and you're noticing that, oh, we're not really having a great ROI, right? Return on investment. Like the click rate's really high, or we're not getting many clicks. We're not actually getting sales from those clicks. Like, you're noticing over time that this strategy isn't really working for you. And then something that probably comes up a lot for many of you, especially when you're starting out, is that expenses are higher than revenue, right? Higher than sales. So short term, you might just need to solve for that 1 month where you're like, oh, I can't, my sales don't cover the kitchen or some of my labor costs or whatever. And so we solve for that, whether you're bringing your own personal money to the table or you run a sale or something like that. But then we need to look and say, is this a longer term trend? And let's use our really high level brain to look at this and start solving this problem. And then again, it could just be more of that strategic vision of, like, what we're here. This is where we currently are in sales or in customers, or whatever benchmark you want to use. And then here's where we want to be at the end of the year, or at the end of that quarter, or whatever it is. And so we want to think about higher level strategy. So I look at problems as, like, there's really 4 types of solutions. And one of them is temporary, right? Like what we talked about last week. We're solving those urgent problems. But we can also look at them as solutions as easiest. What's the easiest solution? What's the best solution? Because sometimes it's the easiest solution, but sometimes it's going to take a little more effort. And then what's the long-term solution? So first of all, I like to plan for this time. This is not something you're going to squeeze in, when you have 30 minutes in between appointments or something. So you want to put this on your calendar. You want to carve out some time, some thinking time where you aren't going to have a lot of distractions. You might need to carve out, let's say, an hour minimum, I think is probably very reasonable to solve these higher level problems. So I want you to put on your CEO hat. You are showing up as the boss in your business, and you're like, okay, I see a problem. And now we're going to put on our CEO hat and we're going to get to work. And this is that higher level brain. We're going to bring this online, and we're going to focus, and we're going to be intentional and strategic. So I was kind of making a list, like, if I were to number these, of like how to have an effective problem solving session. So first of all is mindset. And we talked about that last week a little bit. But I want you to come in without that kind of urgent freak out mind where you're like, I'm I'm in crisis mode. No. We want to look at our circumstances very neutral. Like, okay, staffing is not working or ads are not working, right? It's just very, very neutral. We are purposely choosing like a positive frame of mind, that we are going to focus on solutions, that we're going to use language like, I'm figuring this out and there are solutions. And, even when you're sitting down to do a problem solving strategy session, you want to believe that you have the answers and that the solutions will come. So let's spend a little time getting in there. And one of the ways we can do that to help is what's called getting in states. If you've ever done any Tony Robbins stuff or like high energy things, like, that's what he does, is get you into state. But you can get yourself into state. And I look at this as a pretty physical act. It's a way of signaling to your body and your brain, like, we're getting to work, we're changing our energy, and we're getting really focused on this. So it could be like listening to a song that like gets you energized and positive and kind of fierce, right? It could be doing a little bit of physical movement. You could do a little shadow boxing or pumping your arms or doing jumping jacks, kind of getting your physical energy up, right? Along with the mindset. So now we're going to sit down, or you can stand, whatever you want to do. But we're going to really get focused. We're going to get to work. And remember, we've carved out this time. Your brain, you're going to schedule it ahead of time, and then your brain is not going to want to do it. You're going to be like, this sounds hard. Oh, let me go unload the dishwasher. Let me do the laundry, anything else but to sit down and do this. And that's why we want to do the mindset and state piece first. But just recognize, like, you can just say, yep, I hear you, brain. I know this is hard work, but it's really important and we're going to do it anyway. And we don't know, like, let's take the pressure off. We're going to do this for an hour, but I don't know, maybe, let's just see. Let's see what happens. No pressure. So first off, we want to, let me just say, you need paper and pen, or I love big sticky sheets, those big sticky notes. Big fan of those. I'm a very visual person. And even if you don't consider yourself a visual person, we have to get things out of our brain onto paper. Let's not try to solve problems in thought. It is not the best way to do it. We need to put the physical act of writing, using pen, using markers onto paper. Okay, so first we want to identify the real problem. So it's not just Sally quitting or Sally calling in. It is, our whole employee setup. So what is the actual problem? So let's get very clear about what it is we're trying to solve. And it's probably going to be a little bit broader, right? It's not just going to be Sally. It's going to be the whole thing. It's not just going to be one ad. It's going to be the entire, social media strategy or ad strategy. And then it's not just going to be that 1 month of expenses that were higher than revenue, but we're going to look at what are the actual sales, the profit that we need, the gross profit that we need to support this business and all of the expenses. So get back, a little bit higher level, and then identify the result that we want at the end. So the result might be that I have a staffing plan that is motivating. Like I have amazing staff who shows up motivated and excited, and they are consistently here on time and giving their all, and they're, loyal and committed to the company. And it's within our, ability to pay, right? It could be the results are, I want X number of click rates and converting ads, my percentage, or, it could be, I want a net profit of, X, or a gross profit of X, so that we can, maintain, like we can cover our expenses and hopefully have some leftover, some real profit. So really get clear on the results, right? The end goal. And now I want you to just take a blank sheet of paper, and you are just going to brainstorm. Remember back in elementary and middle school and high school, like this was the thing. You did it often as groups, but you can do it alone. It is literally like letting your brain storm. Like no idea is a bad idea. And you just it's hard sometimes to get those first couple going, but once you get going, and I would even set a timer for this, like for 10 minutes, I'm just not going to stop writing, and I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to put stuff out on paper. And one thing I want to offer here is, yes, there may be things you need to do, but I also want you to brainstorm who can help you. Who could help you identify more possible solutions, or who could help you actually execute some of these things? Like, who else can you talk to? Can you talk to other producers who've had this similar situation? Can you talk with somebody like me, right? Post in the private Facebook group or inside Food Business Success and get coaching on it. So you really want to think about who, not just the how, and just everything on paper, right? Like it could be like, I fire everybody and I do it all myself. It could be, I'm going to work with a staffing agency, or I'm going to talk with other producers who have great, do a lot of farmers markets and have a great staff. I'm going to, reach out to Sari, or get coached on this inside Food Business Success, things like that. So you just want to get wild and crazy, and anything goes. So brainstorm, set a timer. That way you know that there is an end to this, but you also have to stay really focused. And then I want you to just evaluate that list, and thinking back to our 4 types of solutions, and keeping in mind the result, like write that result down where it's big and you can see it on its own thing to keep you coming back to that. Because sometimes we just get focused on solving one part of the problem and forgetting that it's the whole result that we need to be solving for. So 4 types of solutions, remember, are temporary, easiest, best, and long-term. So identify, you could use different color markers or have a little coding system, but identify of all these problems or all these solutions, which kind of solutions are these? Because it'll help you get more clear on okay, that's just solving the temporary issue, but I'm trying to solve that long-term result. And again, you may have people that you need to reach out to, and that's just part of the next steps. And so hopefully you can actually identify even more solutions through the who, right? And you're not maybe going to have the whole how, and that's okay. But there could be the step before the solution, and that's great. So identify these solutions, and really, you want to think for a lot of these longer term things, we really want to be going with the best or the long term. And hey, if it's easiest, awesome. That's even bonus. Now, some of these things, you're going to say, well, that's going to require a budget, or that's going to require me, getting help from somebody, or things like that. And so being open to like remembering you as a business, you're in it here for the long term, and we don't just want to be doing the easiest or the temporary solution. So be willing to do those harder things. And sometimes, I like to check in with my body, and as we make decisions, I love checking in. And I do have a podcast all about making decisions, but it's like when you have decisions to make, we can't do everything, right? So you want to look at all these solutions and say, where do I want to start? And what is going to be the best or the most long-term solution? But also check in. And if it's something that you, there's kind of a difference between just like, oh, this feels light and doable, and I know exactly what to do, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, versus like, no, that just feels like the really hard way, the hardest way possible. So I like to say in decision makings, like look at all options and say, let's just say you have two different options for staffing that you're trying to decide between. Check in with your body and say, if both of these worked out, awesome. Both of them achieved the result that I wanted. Which one feels best? Which one do I want to start with? Because be careful that you don't think I have to do everything all at once, right? This is a process, and it's going to just be too overwhelming if you like, okay, here's the whole plan. And you can come up with the whole plan and write it all down, but there has to be like, what's our next step? What is the next thing? So that is the next step, is making decisions, decide on next steps. Just pick something, pick one thing, check in with your body, see what feels the best, what feels easiest and most fun. And then we're just going to go out and try it. Now, again, sometimes we have to go solve. First, we need to go talk to some people and maybe come back and brainstorm solutions or add those to the list to complete our plan. So you may have kind of a pause where you need to go and do that. So that should be, if you kind of have to stop early, like make that part of that session. Okay, I'm going to go post in the Facebook group. I'm going to email this person. I'm going to post in our, I'm part of many memberships that have other producers in them. So I'm going to go, start reaching out to people and ask for help in this specific area. So try to get all the information that you need to be able to decide on next steps. Now, remember, our steps have to produce wins and losses. Our steps, sometimes there is research before you implement, but that's like the pre-level. And then our actual action that we are taking to solve needs to actually be creating a win or a loss. Like I want to increase my sales, so I'm going to go approach 10 buyers over the next month. So we can't just work on the pretty things like, oh, let me get the sell sheet and let me think about this. Like, no, I actually have to send the emails. I have to do the follow-up. I need to go do the visits. I need to make an offer, right? There has to be action happening, and you have to be getting a result. And then the last thing, as you're taking action and you're going to come back, this is a later thing, but you're going to evaluate. You're going to start saying, give it a time frame. Say, for the next 3 months, the next quarter, I'm going to execute this plan, this problem-solving strategy, and I'm going to stay constrained. I'm not going to add other things. I'm not going to do the shiny object syndrome. Woo, rabbit, squirrel. I always love that. But we're going to stay focused, and we're going to execute the plan, and we're going to do the hard things, and we're going to feel a little uncomfortable, and we're going to get wins and losses. But ultimately, we want to decide on a time frame to circle back and say, is this working? What am I learning? Am I moving closer to the results that I want? So maybe for your ad strategy, you're like, maybe you've been doing it all yourself. And so you decide I need to hire somebody to help me, and I'm going to allocate this budget to it. And then we're going to go all in this, I'm going to do all the things. I got to reach out. I got to find the best, who do other people recommend. And then I'm going to have to reach out and have conversations and evaluate and then make a decision. And so I'm working with somebody now. It's like 3 months from now, I'm going to evaluate, is this actually working? Are we getting closer to the results? Because ultimately, we don't just want to be, doing a bunch of busy work and feeling like we're being really productive. We want to actually be getting wins and losses and then evaluate and say, is this getting me closer to the end result? All right. So that's what I have for you today. Go out there. As entrepreneurs, we just need to get better at solving problems, both the short-term urgent ones, and we don't make it mean anything about us. We just get to work, solve problems. And then the longer term, solving those recurring problems, or just looking at the overall strategy for our business at different intervals throughout the year to really see, is this matching up with what I want success to look like? All right, you guys, until next time, have an amazing week. Are you ready to start that delicious idea that you make in your home kitchen, or grow your existing packaged food business and take it to the next level? The most successful food business entrepreneurs have support, guidance, focus, and accountability to help them make it happen quickly without wasting time or money. Plus, I think starting your packaged food business should actually be fun. Food business success is your secret ingredient to creating your food business dream. Please don't go this alone. Check out the private free Food Business Success Facebook group to connect with other foodpreneurs, get your questions answered quickly, share your wins, and receive special training and tools I only share inside the private community. Just search for Food Business Success on Facebook or get the link in the show notes. Curious about how Food Business Success can help you? Head over to foodbizsuccess.com and fill out the application to see if you're a great fit for the program. Together, let's make your food business dream a reality.